In today's world, food choices are everywhere. Supermarkets, corner stores, restaurants, and advertisements surround us, making the decisions about what to eat more convenient and complex than ever before. But at the heart of all these choices lies a crucial distinction. Some foods are healthy, nourishing our bodies, and supporting long-term well-being, while others are classified as unhealthy, associated with increased risks of disease and diminished health over time. Understanding the differences between healthy and unhealthy food isn't about moral judgment or fads. It's about equipping ourselves with solid scientific information so we can make better decisions for ourselves and those we care about. Let's begin by looking closely at what distinguishes healthy foods from their less healthy counterparts. A healthy diet provides the nutrients our bodies need for optimal function, maintenance, and development, without an excess of harmful substances. According to the World Health Organization, a balanced diet emphasizes fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts, and lean sources of protein, while limiting free sugars, saturated fats, trans fats, and sodium. To put this into context, let's consider vegetables and fruits. Rich in a wide range of vitamins, such as vitamin C and folate, minerals like potassium, and vital phytochemicals, including antioxidants, they have been consistently associated with a lowered risk of chronic diseases. In a comprehensive analysis published in the International Journal of Epidemiology in 2017, researchers reviewed data from over 2 million participants and found that a higher intake of fruit and vegetables is correlated with a lower risk of cardiovascular disease, cancer, and premature death. Specifically, consuming up to 800 grams per day, the equivalent of about 10 portions, was associated with a 24% lower risk of heart disease, a 33% lower risk of stroke, and a 13% reduction in cancer risk, compared with people who ate little or none. Whole grains, such as brown rice, oats, quinoa, and whole wheat bread, are another cornerstone of healthy eating. They provide dietary fiber, B vitamins, and essential minerals like magnesium. Numerous peer-reviewed studies have shown that higher intakes of whole grains are linked to a lower risk of heart disease, stroke, and type 2 diabetes. A 2016 meta-analysis published in the British Medical Journal found that people eating the highest quantities of whole grains had a 16 to 30% lower risk of developing these conditions compared to those eating the least. Fiber, in particular, plays a critical role. It supports healthy digestion, helps control blood sugar and cholesterol levels, and increases satiety, reducing overall calorie intake naturally. Lean proteins, such as those found in fish, poultry, beans, and lentils, are also essential components of a healthy diet. Fish, particularly fatty varieties such as salmon or mackerel, are rich not only in protein, but also in omega-3 fatty acids. According to the American Heart Association, regular consumption of fish is associated with a reduced risk of sudden cardiac death and other adverse cardiovascular outcomes, likely due to the effects of omega-3s in lowering triglycerides, reducing inflammation, and promoting blood vessel health. Nuts and seeds offer plant-based protein, fiber, healthy fats, and crucial micronutrients. Contrary to the belief that their fat content makes them unhealthy, numerous controlled trials and research reviews, such as those published in the journal Nutrients, indicate that regular nut consumption is associated with healthier body weight and a lower risk of heart disease. On the opposite side, unhealthy foods are those that are energy-dense, high in added sugars, unhealthy fats, excessive sodium, and frequently low in vitamins, minerals, and other essential nutrients. Frequently, these foods are also heavily processed. Let's look at the concrete data illustrating why these foods are problematic. Sugar-sweetened beverages, such as sodas, energy drinks, and sweetened teas, are a major contributor to unhealthy diets worldwide. Data from the U.S. National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, NHNES, indicate that, on average, American adults were consuming about 150 200 kilocalories per day from sugary beverages in the last decade. Multiple large-scale studies have linked habitual consumption of these drinks with increased risk of obesity, type 2 diabetes, and heart disease. The Nurses' Health Study, which followed more than 90,000 women over nearly 25 years, found that those who drank one or more sugary beverages per day had a 25% greater risk of developing type 2 diabetes compared to those who rarely consumed them. Highly processed foods, including packaged snacks, frozen meals, instant noodles, and commercially baked goods, are another significant aspect of unhealthy diets. These foods often contain high levels of refined grains, saturated and trans fats, sugars, and sodium, while being low in fiber and important micronutrients. A 2019 study in the BMJ examined the diets and health outcomes of over 100,000 French adults and found that each 10% increase in the proportion of ultra-processed food in the diet corresponded to a more than 10% increased risk of overall cardiovascular disease. Trans fats, in particular, are especially harmful. Industrial trans fats are created through the partial hydrogenation of vegetable oils, a process used to improve shelf life and texture in processed foods. Decades of research, including a landmark 2015 review in the British Medical Journal, demonstrate that higher trans fat intake is associated with a 21% higher risk of heart disease and a 28% higher risk of heart-related deaths. This has led the World Health Organization to call for a total global elimination of industrial trans fats by 2023, a move expected to save hundreds of thousands of lives annually. Sodium is another area of concern. While sodium is an essential nutrient, most people consume far more than is necessary for health, largely from processed foods and restaurant meals. The American Heart Association recommends no more than 2,300 milligrams of sodium per day, with an ideal limit of 1,500 milligrams for most adults. Yet average intake in the United States hovers around 3,000 milligrams daily. Excessive sodium intake is a leading factor in hypertension, or high blood pressure, which in turn increases the risk of heart attack and stroke. Meta-analyses encompassing hundreds of thousands of people around the world confirm that reducing sodium consumption can significantly lower blood pressure and reduce the risk of cardiovascular diseases. Now, let's compare actual meal options using concrete examples and nutritional data. Consider a breakfast of oatmeal topped with fresh berries and walnuts versus a breakfast of a commercially prepared sugary cereal with whole milk. 1 cup of cooked oatmeal contains about 50 calories, 5 grams of protein, 4 grams of fiber, and no added sugars. Add a half cup of blueberries and an ounce of walnuts, and you also get a dose of antioxidants, omega-3s, and additional vitamins and minerals, all with around 300 calories and little to no added sugar. Now compare this to 1 cup of a sugary breakfast cereal, which can contain upwards of 12 to 15 grams of sugar per serving, less fiber and protein, and often less nutritional value overall. The high sugar content induces a quick spike and crash in blood glucose, leaving you feeling hungry again sooner, and promoting excessive calorie intake throughout the day. At lunchtime, a comparison could be made between a grilled chicken salad, a base of leafy greens, grilled chicken breast, colorful vegetables, olive oil, and lemon juice, versus a burger with fries and a soda. The salad provides protein, fiber, vitamins A, C, and K, healthy fats, and plenty of antioxidants, typically with fewer than 500 calories. In contrast, a fast food meal with a cheeseburger, large fries, and a regular soda can surpass 1,200 calories, contain over 50 grams of unhealthy fats, and deliver more than the entire recommended daily limit of sodium in a single sitting. The high glycemic load and abundance of added sugars, saturated fats, and sodium have real, measurable impacts on metabolic health, contributing to an elevated risk of diabetes, fatty liver disease, and heart disease over time. One of the most pressing concerns with consistently consuming unhealthy foods is their link to the global rise in obesity. As of 2022, 1 in 8 people worldwide is living with obesity, according to World Health Organization estimates. In the United States alone, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reports that the prevalence of obesity in adults has climbed from 30.5% in 1999 to 2000 to 41.9% in 2020. The parallel surge in consumption of processed, calorie-dense, nutrient-poor foods has been repeatedly documented through national dietary surveys. Obesity significantly increases the risk of numerous chronic diseases, not only diabetes and heart conditions, but also several types of cancer, sleep apnea, osteoarthritis, and severe complications from infectious diseases like COVID-19. A global study published in The Lancet in 2014, using data from nearly 10 million participants, concluded that unhealthy dietary patterns are now the leading risk factor for mortality and disability worldwide, responsible for more deaths than tobacco. Why then do unhealthy foods remain so popular? Convenience, cost, aggressive marketing, and taste all play a role. Processed snacks, fast food, and sugary drinks are typically cheaper, more heavily advertised, and more widely available than fresh fruits, vegetables, and minimally processed staples. Psychological research also shows that high-sugar, high-fat foods activate reward pathways in the brain, creating cravings and contributing to habitual consumption over time. This is not to say that enjoying less healthy foods on occasion dooms anyone to illness. Dietary patterns matter most over the long term. According to a 2020 review in the journal Nutrients, even modest improvements in diet, such as adding more servings of vegetables, replacing refined grains with whole grains, or simply drinking water in place of sugary beverages, are associated with significant reductions in disease risk and improvements in quality of life. The key is to make the healthier choice the default and to seek balance, not perfection. What does a well-proportioned, healthy diet look like, according to the most current scientific evidence? The Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health recommends the following rough breakdown. Half your plate filled with vegetables and fruits, 1/4 with whole grains, and the final quarter with healthy protein sources, such as fish, poultry, beans, or nuts. Healthy fats, like olive oil or those naturally present in nuts and avocados, should be included in moderation, while sugary drinks, processed meats, refined grains, and snack foods should be minimized. Also crucial is the understanding that individual nutritional needs can vary due to age, activity level, health status, and cultural factors, to name just a few. For some, certain healthy foods may not be accessible or affordable. Nonetheless, public health initiatives are making strides in improving the availability of fresh, healthy options in communities around the world and supporting everyone in making better choices. Let's look at another practical example: the impact of small daily changes. The 2018 Pure study, which followed 135,000 people from 18 countries, found that replacing just 1 serving of sugary beverages with water or unsweetened tea could lower the risk of death by around 10%. Swapping refined grains for whole grains produced similar reductions. Over the years, these choices matter immensely. Nevertheless, awareness alone is not always enough. Food labels can be confusing or even misleading. In many countries, packages can conceal high amounts of sugar or trans fats behind terms like natural flavors or partially hydrogenated oils. Becoming an advocate for your health and learning to interpret food labels, looking for words like whole grain, checking added sugars, and scanning for sodium and unhealthy fats can give you greater control over your dietary patterns. There is also a strong case for meal preparation at home, where you can regulate ingredients and portion sizes. Studies have found that people who regularly cook meals at home tend to consume fewer calories, less unhealthy fat and sugar, and more nutrients overall. Enjoying meals with family or friends, free from distractions like screens, can also support slower, more mindful eating. And, as research and appetite suggests, helps instill healthier eating habits in children. A major point, reinforced time and again in studies from around the world, is that improving diet quality does not require risk or deprivation. It is about gradual, sustainable changes, reaching for an apple instead of a bag of chips, adding extra vegetables to pasta, choosing grilled or baked proteins instead of fried, selecting water or herbal tea instead of a sugary soda, and flavoring meals with herbs, spices, lemon, or vinegar in place of extra salt or sugar. In conclusion, the fundamental distinctions between healthy and unhealthy foods are not based on opinions or passing trends. They are grounded, as we have seen, in decades of rigorous scientific research, clear data, and overwhelming evidence from public health. A diet built around vegetables, fruits, whole grains, legumes, nuts, lean proteins, and healthy fats, while minimizing processed, sugar-sweetened, and high-sodium foods, offers the best chance at a long, vibrant, and disease-free life. Choices made daily, meal by meal, truly add up in measurable ways. So let's make knowledge, not just habit or convenience, our daily guide.